Dungeon Scrawlers, Heroes of Undermountain, Disco Elysium, and the Call of Cthulhu starter set. This is Staying In.
Do you know what I'm getting really, really bored of?
Bored?
Yeah,
of?
do you know what I'm getting really bored of?
Christmas.
No, I'm very excited for
Halloween?
Christmas. No, Halloween was good this year. I enjoyed Halloween, even though it is slightly too spooky for me.
Do you want us to keep guessing until we get it?
No, it's all right. I'm
wearing underwear.
That's correct. There we go. And
brushing my teeth.
And that's why I'm getting very bored with buying an apartment. I'm getting really, really bored with it. I'm getting really bored of. Well, it's the Ross and Rachel of owning property, right? Will they? Won't they? And in the end, it might be slightly disappointing. But yeah, we're buying a flat at the moment, and it's the limbo that I can't deal with. Mm-hmm. I can't deal with uncertainty. Like they always say, human beings aren't very good with uncertainty, and we always want to have a little bit. We want to know more than we can possibly know. I'm just getting bored of being like, should I decorate like anything in the current place that I'm in? Should I bother? I mean, I've had thoughts where I'm like, should I bother tidying that up? I mean, we might be moving soon, so
I could just see him now, Dan, just like, should I wash up? Like just spilling beans onto the floor in the kitchen and going, I might not have to clear this up.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone else's problem.
You walk in, it's actually just like a war zone in his kitchen. It's just kind of like he's just constantly buying paper plates because he's run out of other stuff.
I just sort of think to myself, like, sometimes, I'll be extra careful because obviously, you want to look after all the bits and pieces in a rented apartment. You want to make sure that you keep everything nice and tidy and all that sort of stuff. And every once in a while, I just think, like, does it matter if I just scuff the wall now? Or because, I mean, I'm leaving at some point soon.
I mean, you do still have to live there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I can deal with it for a little bit.
And they come in after your deposit.
No, they ain't getting that. I'm bored of it. And I know... Obviously, I know I'm in a deeply privileged position where I can say I'm buying a place, like deeply, deeply privileged. But I've got to admit, people weren't fibbing. It really is tedious and long-winded and lengthy and expensive. That's the other thing. Money has lost all meaning now.
Yeah.
Like I used to like, and I still do to some extent. Whenever I'd have a crisp fiver in my pocket, I would think I was the richest man in the world. I would have a fiver. I could buy a magazine. I could go and buy like 4 chocolate bars with that. Like I would think, wow, £5, I am well off. Fantastic. Now I don't think anything about, oh, do they need to respond to an email? Well, that's just another 70 quid. Like just for an email. It just means nothing anymore.
Just think how many chocolate bars you could have got for that.
I know. It boggles my mind.
I love that that's your point of reference for money still.
What's that? Chocolate bars?
Is like, yeah, that you have money, the first thought is chocolate bars. Like you're 7 years old.
Yeah. What do you think of? What's your point of reference for money?
Yeah, interesting. Go on, Dan.
For what quantity? Are we saying £5?
If you've got a fiver in your pocket, what are you spending that on?
Yeah,
I'm probably thinking supermarket meal deal and some extra little treats. I'm thinking a £3 meal deal. Perhaps I might throw in a sausage roll and a chocolate bar just to round it all off.
Right. On top of the meal, but the meal deal comes with a snack, Dan.
Yeah, but that comes with crisps. The crisps is the snack. That's what you're obviously going to choose. You don't have to eat them all at the same time then.
A sandwich, a snack, and then a treat.
No. Well, obviously, I mean, some supermarkets may differ. The one I would go for is a drink, a sandwich, and another thing, which may well be a packet of crisps. Could be a chocolate bar if you're fortunate enough. Could be some kind of savoury thing, or could be a fruit pot.
This just strikes to me of that scam that I got done by Domino's a year ago when Hugo was born. Like, that just strikes me as like, yeah, a sandwich, a packet of crisps, and a drink. Only £3, but we all know. You want a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now we've got you. We've got you with the meal deal.
This is it. This is the greatest crime of the 21st century, isn't it? We all know. It was, built-in obsolescence in light bulbs was the greatest crime of the 19th century. Greatest crime of the 20th century, 21st century is Tesco's knowing that you can't choose between ready salted Walkers and a Whisper. You have to have
you've got to have both. But it's the same with you now, Pete. You're locked in this house buying economy, where you've already spent so much money. You're just going to keep on spending it until it's done.
Yeah, because once you move in, that's when the decorating starts.
Oh, I'm looking at things now on websites for pots of paint, and a tiny little voice in me goes,
Have you ever bought paint before, Pete?
Absolutely. But the paint I usually buy is from Games Workshop.
Yeah, you're going to have to buy a lot of that.
Well, yeah.
Oh, your walls look lovely. What's this one? Oh, this is a Bloodlust Red.
Yeah. I think you'll find that our bedrooms be done in Goblin Green.
I just love the idea of him there with a tiny little miniatures paintbrush.
Yeah.
Dip.
I'll be doing a wash and a dry brush later. No, but like I see these pots of paint on websites, and it's like £40 for a big pot of paint.
As a homeowner, as me and Dan could probably attest to as two homeowners, if you're looking at pots of paint on websites, they're then bound to be £40 a tub.
I don't. That's the thing, and that's the thing. Myself, and my partner, like we're not like hands-on people, so we are ripe for being ripped off. Like we are a target.
Okay, so do we need to introduce a feature of kind of this episode where Pete, every single episode, comes to us with questions to make sure he's not being ripped off?
Yeah, because there is a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to buying a house, where it's just like the solicitor could just come to you and just go, yeah, I need a £5. What for?
Admin fee.
Yeah, admin fee. And you'd like, well, we've already spent thousands of pounds on the deposit or whatever. We might as well just chuck another £5 in there.
And do you know what galls me the worst about? And we've got very good solicitors, but do you know what galls me the absolute worst about our solicitors? Right.
Go on.
They sent all of the deeds and the contracts and all that sort of stuff to us second class.
No one's in a rush.
I was absolutely livid. Couldn't even be bothered to send it first. Just thought, I'll save a couple of pence here and there. I was absolutely livid. I felt like writing them a letter, and then I realised it cost me another £40 to get a response. Look, I don't want to be negative all the time. I'm also sick of being negative, right?
Okay, we're getting bored of it as well, to be honest.
Exactly. I mean, it's been like 30-odd years.
Yeah,
I mean.
right. Okay, yeah, that's true.
You were born negative.
Do you know what? I'm not writing that off as a possibility. So I'm gonna talk about something lovely instead.
Okay. Well, we always do. We always talk about things that are lovely. What's the point of complaining? It wastes your time. It wastes my time.
Exactly. So what you're saying is I've just wasted everybody's time by talking for the last 5-10 minutes. So, all right. So one of the things that I love, that I've been getting into over the last couple of years, as people have probably figured out by now, is I've been getting into role-playing games, and we've all been getting into them into lesser and greater.
You're welcome.
It was you, wasn't it, that really basically kicked everything off, wasn't it, Dan?
I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot toot.
Toot. So I have been getting into. So the first RPG I ever played was with with a friend of mine called Tom, and he introduced me to a game called Call of Cthulhu. We talked about Call of Cthulhu on the podcast before.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
Yeah. And he goes on and if he's not talking about house buying, he's talking about Call of Cthulhu.
Right, exactly right. Well, you can have one or the other. So So we talked about the solo adventures. What I'm gradually doing over time is increasing the player count. So it's all been solo adventures to begin with, and I'll in the show notes I'll chuck in some links to the previous episodes where we talked about that stuff. And now I've increased the player count to 2.
Oh,
I know,
including you.
Including me. So myself being the keeper, and a friend of mine called Chris, who you all know. He's on the podcast with us. I don't know if you've heard of him.
All right, okay. The way you said that was incredibly strange.
yeah, you made it sound as if there was another friend.
That was really good.
I got a friend of mine called Chris. You know him.
You know him. He's not here today,
You know him.
but
you love him.
It feels like a real return to the original. To the time that I first played an RPG with my friend called Tom, who introduced me to Call of Cthulhu, because now I'm playing the role of the keeper. So in multiplayer Call of Cthulhu, which is mostly how you play this game, it's certainly how it all started. You have two general roles. One is the keeper. I believe it's the keeper of forbidden lore or something like that.
Probably.
Something like that. And essentially what it is a GM, a DM, a referee. It's the person who is running the who's running.
I've never heard it referred to as a referee.
Never heard of it. Okay, so
Yellow card. You misrolled.
Okay, so referee is a legit term for one of these kinds of people. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Basically, I was running up and
you
down.
mixing up role-playing games with Subbuteo.
Yeah. Oh, the ultimate. So I got I've got the Call of Cthulhu starter set. And I'd been meaning to crack it out for a while. So what it's got inside of it is not quite the full rules, but a lot of the rules, like basically 95% of what you need to run the game most of the time. And that, funnily enough, is actually what is in a lot of starter sets these days. It's like there is a core rulebook, which I've got lying around somewhere, that's like 300-400 pages, however long it is. But really, you can actually condense it down to a relatively short amount nice bit of Foley here. The introductory rules, which is, I don't know, 24, 25 pages, 23 pages. So, and this basically just gives you it gives you the basics. How do you roll? Like, how do you run a game generally? How do you do combat generally? And it gives you some simple stuff for firearms and combat and investigation and all that good stuff, and some characters. So, so the start set comes with those introductory rules. That is actually book 2. Book 1 is Alone Against the Flames, which is a solo adventure, which is actually designed to teach you the game as you're playing this solo adventure as a keeper. And then book 3, which is a much chunkier book, which comes in the thing, is called Paper Chase and Other Adventures. And Paper Chase is a one-on-one adventure, which I ran with Chris. Now, I'd never run Call of Cthulhu before, and I was really apprehensive. So I got really apprehensive when I was running BFRPG back a year and a half, 2 years ago now, when we were playing Basic Fantasy. And I got really apprehensive about running this one, because there's always a thing with me of like, am I running it wrong? Because you're basically the rules. As the keeper, you're keeping the logic of this world together. And because of that, you need to be kind of rigorous. You don't have the I suppose the good fortune of like a board game whereby there is a rule book and it is exactly that, and there is not really a lot of room for interpretation. In fact, you probably don't want interpretation of rules at all in board games all that much. Whereas in RPGs, there's a lot of room for interpretation, but how much of that and where you put it is very much up for debate. So I was a little bit apprehensive going into this, but Chris was very gentle with me, and we played. So we played. We know what Chris is like. He's just nice. He's just he's just nice.
No matter what would have happened,
exactly. It could have been a couple of hours of utter twaddle, but and he would have been all right with it. So what it comes with is these scenarios, and it also comes with some pre-filled in character sheets and some handouts. So in the previous time that I talked about this, you might remember that you could photocopy out one of the pages, and you got this little puzzle that you had to cut out and fill in and do this kind of map puzzle thing that I was talking about. Well, they're called handouts, and the handouts are also things that are very popular in Keeper and Investigator games, where you hand out, let's say, for example, an image of the front cover of a newspaper. You'd hand that out, and then your investigators would read it and go, "Ooh, I wonder what all this means." So there's all that good stuff. And the first adventure, Paper Chase, is, I think, one of the neatest pieces of introductory design that I've kind of had the good fortune of playing around with. It's a very small adventure. It has to be, because obviously it's meant to be short. It's run in one setting. So I think this took us about 2, maybe 3 hours. Probably not even 3. Just me and Chris. And it's about a person called Douglas Kimball, who is and this is set in the 1920s, and it's about a guy who basically who disappears. A guy called Douglas Kimball, and it's down to the investigator to find out what happened, what happened to a burglary that happened in Douglas Kimball's house. All this sort of stuff. And it's a very small little adventure. It's about 4 or 5 different areas that you can go and explore. But it's really beautifully written. It's really well put together. It's a very short... It reminds me a lot of Lovecraft short stories, in that there are strange goings on. You're in the town in kind of the middle of nowhere, and it just deals with the uncanny, or the strange events occurring, not necessarily like, massive cosmic horror, life-changing things like that, but sort of slightly unsettling events that kind of sit with you for a while. So the whole point of this box set is to kind of get you into being a keeper and being investigators and understanding how what is the cadence of the gameplay, but also from an investigator perspective, but also from a keeper perspective. How do you actually run these? What does Call of Cthulhu content actually look like? How do you read and understand the material so that you can keep enough of it in your head so that you can understand, as a keeper, how the adventure needs to move forward and provide dramatic tension and description, all that sort of stuff.
So is that really the biggest difference between when you're playing it solo to when you're playing it? Because when you're playing it solo, I assume you're doing a lot of the same stuff that you were doing when you're playing it one-on-one, but you don't have to really worry about the drama of how you're presenting it. Because for me, that's the biggest fun about being a DM or a GM or a referee. Is, yes, you're the keeper of the rules, but everyone around the table kind of knows the rules anyway. And when you invest in an RPG and in a board game especially, like, you're not going out of your way to break those rules. That's not really the reason why you want to play within those rules anyway. So I've always felt, as the GM, it's more of a, right, what's the tempo of this part that they're playing? What is the pace, the direction, and the drama in it? So is that the big difference? Like, injecting that into it rather than just playing through the rule set? Yeah,
absolutely. Like, what it means is that rather than there being, words on a piece of paper that have been pre-written by somebody, a few years ago, that essentially provide the direction for your game experience. Instead, what happens is these adventures essentially give all of the information a keeper requires up front to basically say, okay, this is the tone, this is what's going to happen, this is really what's happening. You need to keep in mind that there's this twist here, that this person knows this and this and this. Here are some character hooks for how you might describe them and talk about them. It means that the keeper is basically describing the world rather than in a solo adventure. One of these solo adventures that we played, against the series, that is entirely down to the writer, and it's much more of a kind of choose your own adventure sort of a thing. And I think the interesting thing with it, I think the folks who write an RPG engine called Fate, I think the way they describe it is you're a director. So you have your actors. And it's a kind of like an old theatrical idea of like you have your actors and they're doing their own thing, and they're definitely adding something massive to what it is that you've done. But you're kind of like the writer director in that you're kind of helping them again find out what that tempo is, as you say, and what that tone is. So we ran it, And he's not here, so I can say he definitely really enjoyed it. Chris,
He hasn't stopped talking about it.
He has had a lovely time while playing. So it was really, really fun. And I think the thing that I've enjoyed with it the most, it was me and it was Chris, and it felt very appropriately intimate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those kind of ghostly, spooky horror stories, especially the ones that I really like that Lovecraft put together. I've always kind of worried, and I have not run it yet, so I don't know how this might work out myself. I've always wondered, like, how do you keep that feeling of tension and horror when you've got, four of your pals who basically are wanting to kind of break the tension constantly, right? Because if you've got 4 players with you and you're the keeper and they're all kind of, you're trying to provide tension, you naturally as a human being want to kind of break that tension. And it's really difficult to control that as a keeper when you've got like 4 people, unless they're really, really investing in this in this activity, right? So, but when it was just me and Chris, whenever there was a moment, bless him, when he'd try and make a joke or something like that, I'd sort of like, take the joke and then, we'd enjoy that and then move on as quickly as possible so that we could get back to that tension. Which sounds like I was being a real fuddy-duddy. Be like,
yeah, it does.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you'd be like a school teacher, like, no, pay attention.
No, fingers on lips. But it wasn't. And what it meant is it allowed us to break that tension as a kind of like side, almost like in brackets. Like we broke that tension, then we're like, okay, and then straight back in. Because that one-on-one dynamic is really interesting for that. So I'm really like excited to do more of that stuff, and it's kind of got me thinking a lot more about running things one-on-one.
Because I've only ever done RPGs in groups. I think the smallest I did, was Sam, me, you, and Chris did 10 Candles. That's the smallest one I've ever done.
Yes.
And so what interests me in terms of perhaps more so with that one-on-one aspect is one of the joys, I think, of when you're kind of DMing all that sense, and it's a joy both sides of it, especially when you find out later, is where kind of the people playing it go off on tangents that you weren't anticipating, and you have to kind of on the spot think it, come up with something, and then maybe for the next session you've had to reevaluate, okay, the story's going in a different direction. With a one-on-one scenario, I imagine you don't really get a lot of that because you're in control a lot more. That, as you say, if Chris, in the same way that he would make a joke to release the tension, if he took a step in the wrong direction, you would fairly quickly be like, no, just calmly just nudge him back onto the path that he's going on to. With obviously not kind of breaking, it's not like there's a wall, turn around. But is there any element of that, of having to make up the story on the fly outside of what you've kind of pre-prepared?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so even with so one of the other good things about this box set is that it especially the adventures, they have like little box outs that have bits of advice to new GMs. So you could run this if you'd never run an RPG before, and it will say things like, your players might go off on a bit of a tangent here. Here are some things that you can do to get them back on track. And it's
okay, that's good, yeah.
Right, and it's not about railroading. It's about and I think for me, railroading is where you somebody suggests an idea, and you kind of like in improv, you just shut it down immediately, right? And
it's not yes and, it's no.
Yeah.
No but or whatever.
Right, and I think that the difference between that I experienced running this as a one-on-one thing is I actually had to be quicker on the draw with Chris's ideas, because basically, and again, I'm sure like old school GMs will kind of agree on this. Basically, what you do as a GM when you're running a game and people think, oh, I'm going to go off in this direction and do blah 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 blah. As a GM, one of the easiest tricks you can do is kind of lay down this idea and let all of your players just squabble amongst themselves about figuring out where it is that they really want to go next. So if somebody was really going to go off-piste, the others probably know that they're actually wanting to go down this other route, and you can just let them go for it, and you get a bit more time to be able to think, okay, I need to come up with something to kind of come up with. Whereas Chris's was much more immediate. You need to be able to come up with something a little bit quicker. And again, having that kind of confined space, and again, Call of Cthulhu works really well for these kinds of things. Lovecraftian adventures of like, you're in a small town, it's the 1920s, it's very difficult to get from A to B, there's no communication with the outside world. Like, all of that sort of stuff really helps with the scope of the game in that way. And it just means that the flow of play, combined with the genre that it's in, of horror, that one-on-one thing just seems to work really, really nicely for that, which I was really, really impressed with. And it's, I was just really, really blown away. I think it is probably, this kit is absolutely phenomenal. It cost like 20 quid or 25 quid, and it came with all the things that I'd need to like run all the adventures. Got some dice, got some handouts, got pre-filled in investigators. What a blessing, because you can just hand them out. You don't have to sit around for 45 minutes while people come up with backstories. You just say, no, you're this person.
No, you're this person.
You're this person.
So what's next then in that book? Because obviously Dan and I didn't get this invite, so
No.
we had no choice. So you've done solo, you've done one-on-one.
Yep.
So is there a next, like, this may be a stupid question, but is there a next evolutionary step on from that, which is 2-on-1?
Are you going to have a Sophie's Choice moment of having to choose between me and Sam? Is the question?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Or do you drop Chris?
True. Well, that could be really interesting.
I would never drop Chris, and you know that. So what I can do is, as a keeper, I can run Paper Chase again for both of you. So you can play it one-on-one. You can also play it with one keeper and two investigators if you want to.
I don't want Chris's kind of hand-me-downs.
Well, or you can also go on to the second scenario, which is called Edge of Darkness, which is suitable for 2 to 5 investigators and a keeper. And again, it's that next level of like, okay, you're going to have a little bit more space to play around with. There's going to be some handouts now, so we're going to introduce you to how those handouts work. We're going to,
I just love how Pete says, are they actually called handouts in the book? Because that's what they used to be called in primary school.
I believe they're called handouts.
If you get your Egyptian King's handout.
That's exactly it. You know what I'm looking at? It's called a handout. And basically in it, there's like lots of information. Like one of the things here is like a letter to somebody, and you would literally hand it over. So the keeper has nothing to do with it. They just hand it over and they just say, there you go, you get this letter.
That's really cool.
It is
I like that.
really neat.
So is the whole aim of the starter set, and apologies if you've already covered this, is by once you've gone through all that material, as a keeper and as a group of players, you can all then go, right, we know how we would play the full fat Call of Cthulhu.
So, as players, yes, you basically have pretty much everything that you would need to your to hand. As a keeper, no. You don't have access to the full rules here. The full rule book for 7th edition is, like I say, about 300, maybe 400 pages. The things that aren't covered, I believe chases are not covered. So there are very specific rules for how you do chases that are covered in the 7th edition core book. But you're not actually missing out on anything. It's not like a substandard experience because of it. You would just, as a GM or a keeper or whatever, you would use your, like, it's often called fiat. You would use your fiat to
drive away.
To drive
your
away.
Fiat 500.
So basically, somebody comes up with an idea, you get in the fiat and sod off because you haven't got an idea. The idea is basically that because you control the world, well, you can just say, like, I don't know, roll a d6, 1 to 2, it does this, 4 through 6, it does this.
Okay.
So I would say you can probably get 100 hours into your Call of Cthulhu experience by the time that, like, you have basically exhausted the rules in the starter set and you probably want to move on and use the core book. This starter set is more than enough for you to go, oh, this is cool, or this isn't for me.
It's interesting when you talk about this game as if you talk about Call of Cthulhu, and especially the starter set, about a great way of introducing people to playing an RPG.
Yep.
And I feel like there, especially with some of the board games that we've been kindly sent, that there is seems like there is a big push to thinking about games that do that provide like an introductory experience to certain things. Like we've covered a lot of them recently on the podcast, like Celtic, and we talked about like Little Factory the other week.
What was that one that was like the smaller version of a big one that you liked? And it was about a lion or something. It was called like Lions of something, I want to say, and it was like a smaller version of a massive like Gloomhaven-esque kind of thing.
Jaws of the Lion.
Jaws of the Lion. There you go.
Yeah, which is like an introductory version of Gloomhaven.
Right.
So I feel like that's just like a nice little trend, and I've got this. As you both will know, my board game collection is very well logged and catalogued. But there is and I do try to keep it to quite a slim sort of size.
Do you?
But definitely. I try to keep it.
How many you got now?
91.
Slim size.
Nice and compact little collection there.
Just the essentials.
Yeah, but it used to be over 100. So
I mean, that's only 9 away from where you are now, sir.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not a monster. Oh no, not over 100. I've got 91.
But some of them are very small, and
Size doesn't matter, Sam.
but there's one area which isn't counted in terms of the games that I own, which is a big box I've got upstairs in my loft, and I call this big box the box of hope and promise, because basically this is a big box I'm going to get down for my son when he gets a little bit older, and it's basically filled with games that I think will be really appropriate for him as like an introduction into board games.
Cool.
And I've actually made a new addition to this, because a game that we got sent from WizKids recently is a Dungeons and Dragons game.
Ooh.
And again, I think this game might be a really, really good way. You say Call of Cthulhu is a really good way of showing people how to run an RPG and play one, but I think this is a really good way of one step before that, of introducing people to what is just Dungeons and Dragons.
Huh.
And like the characters within it, and kind of in a roundabout way, kind of what the gameplay kind of is and what to expect. So this is called Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Scrawlers, Heroes of Undermountain.
That is a good name. That is a very good name.
And I realise I'm going to butcher this, but this was sent to us from WizKids, and it's by Vangelis Bagiatakis and Konstantinos Karagiannis.
Yep.
They designed it, and it's not. And when you're thinking of an introduction to RPG,
Yep.
especially Dungeons and Dragons, it's actually has none of what you would consider the traditional gameplay of an RPG in it.
Because Dungeons and Dragons has actually a bit of a history of having introductory products to their line of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So, like, originally they came up with BX, which was called Basic and Expert, and that was all about getting new people into the game. It was kind of like a tweaked, cleaned up version of Dungeons and Dragons in the late 70s, I think it was. They did a board game, I think, for Advanced, and I think for Third, and they've never quite, apart from BX, I don't think they've ever quite satisfactorily got that feeling of Dungeons and Dragons across, particularly well, or anything like that. So how do they, because I'm looking at the cover art for this thing and it looks plush. I love it. It's like grid paper and maps, which makes me go, yes, this is the good stuff. So how does it actually like introduce people to D&D?
So I think one of the things that it does is that it's definitely going after a much, much, much younger audience than those products that you mentioned previously. So on the box it says 10 plus. I mean, I would maybe go a bit younger than that. I think like an 8-year-old, 7-year-old might cope with this really well. And there's a video of me just like basically unboxing it and explaining the rules all within a 30-second reel on Instagram, which also explains why I think it's like a great introductory game. Because all you do is you get this big box, and the box is full of all these dry wipe maps. And you pick a map, you pick a hero out of these out of a group of 4 or 5 heroes, I think it is. And then you pick a pen and you basically just draw, and you race the other players. So it's real time. So you race each other going around this dungeon, filling and interacting with objects within the room. And it's a race, especially on the first map, to be the first one to kill the boss at the end. And then once that's complete, you kind of exchange maps with the person to your left, and you mark them, and you see how well they've done, and basically count at the victory points, and that's it. That's whoever gets the most victory points wins.
So are you doing 2 different maps in that scenario?
No, everyone's doing the same map.
Oh, so have you got multiples of each map?
So there's 10 different maps, but there's 4 copies of each of those maps. So everyone around the table has the same map in front of them. Like, the maps are these maze-like creations in which there are these rooms where there are these things that you basically interact with. So the rules are, you can basically, once you start drawing, you can't stop. You can't take your pen off the sheet. You can go over lines that you've previously done, but you can't take your pen off. You can't go through walls and end up in a new room. You are allowed to touch walls. So it's not completely like, you're not going to get punished if you start like hitting walls or anything like that. And then the aim of the game is to basically just go from room to room, encountering with everything within the room. If you miss an object within a room, you get penalised at the final scoring. So you can't just like race through rooms missing stuff. If you enter a room, you've got to encounter the elements that are in it. And they may be a monster, and so you defeat a monster by just colouring it in really, really quickly. It could be a piece of treasure, and you collect the treasure by drawing all the way around it. It could be a spell, and a spell is usually depicted as this like squiggly little line, and basically you just trace along the line, and that's it. You've like cast that spell. It could be a group of rune stones, which are usually numbered between 1 to 6, and you've got to gracefully create a pathway from like 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, and then that's it, that you're done, and then you can go and leave the room. And yeah, it's like there's nothing here that's dramatically like, it's not going to change my world of gaming. Like, I am not the target, and we are not the target audience for this kind of product. Like, it's incredibly simple. There's a few things that complicate the recipe, and like in later maps there are keys that you have to find before you can go through certain doors, and there's orbs that you can find that if you're the first person to find that orb, you'll get more points than the other players around the table, and all this kind of stuff. And there are some maps that basically you're in them for a limited time, and it's who gets the most points. There are other maps, like the first one that you play, that it's the first one to complete the big boss monster, who, to defeat them, you have to scribble them all out, and they're like huge. They're like a massive part of the map. It was really fun when I was playing this with my wife, and we had no idea where each of us was until we heard this like all this like frantic scribbling. She was like, "I'm done." I was like, "Oh!" It's like so close to. And then there are these heroes that you pick before you enter the map, which give just enough flavour to how heroes operate within the world of Dungeons and Dragons as well. So for example, a barbarian, to kill a goblin, they only have to colour in the head. A wizard, to cast a spell, only has to draw a circle in the outline of the spell in order to move on. A rogue only needs to pass through a piece of treasure to pick it up. It doesn't need to draw around it. And I think for a younger audience, there's so much in this game to start that conversation of, what is Dungeons and Dragons? Who are these characters? And to help them understand that what playing a game like Dungeons and Dragons would be. It's obviously not a race, and obviously you're not just like colouring in goblins to get rid of them. But that feeling of entering a space, not knowing which direction to go, knowing that there's some sort of ominous big bad that you're heading towards, some sort of arc to your adventure, but that it's all about discovery and mishaps along the way. I think it's just got a lot of value and a lot to offer. That kind of, in terms of a real solid introduction for reasonably young people.
As you're talking, I'm looking in depth at these pictures, trying to imagine myself playing it. So as far as I'm aware, it is just kind of, when you talk about being a race, there's no element of movement around the board outside of just you moving the pen at your own speed. So you could take your time with it if you wanted to. Is there a single route to the end goal, or is it one of these things where you can go in? There's always a way through, depending on which way you're going. There's always obviously there will be some dead ends, but how complex is it in terms of always giving you a way out?
There's no defined one way through. The maps themselves are designed for you to get lost within, really. And again, that's the beauty of it. That's like understanding what Dungeons and Dragons is you're presented with a dungeon. There might be a route that could be the easier, preferable route, but you're never really going to know that. So you might let your character sort of define what routes that you want to take. Mm-hmm. So, for example, like a cleric might be attracted to rooms where there's more spells inside them because they know they're going to get through those rooms a bit quicker. But that might lead them to a bit of a stickier path later on. Like in later maps, there are certain objects, when you interact with them, they allow you to teleport across to another side of the map. So it might be that you look towards those to interact with those things so you can give yourself a bit of a jump to somewhere later on in the map. Or like in other ones, there are going to be some where you're going to have to work towards the keys. So as you're sort of wandering around and moving around the map, you're looking around to see where keys are and trying to sort of most reverse engineer the path that you need to take to get them. Yeah, it's really adaptable and flexible, and I think it's definitely going up into my loft of great things for my son to play when he's a little bit older.
I had a wonderfully healthy lunch today.
No, you didn't, Dan. You had a meal, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I didn't because I was having to work from home today, but I also had my littlest one wasn't very well, so I had to have her at home with me, so I couldn't really leave the house. So I rummaged through the cupboards, and I ended up having for my lunch 2 bags of oven-baked Walker's crisps and a pack of mini cheddars. That was my lunch. Okay. Very beige. Very, very beige. Because we do our shopping on a Monday kind of evening, so that it's like Monday daytime is like when the cupboards are the most bare. So I've had like a very unhealthy lunch break today.
I had a tofu wrap with hummus because I am about as middle class as you can get.
That was it. I had a pot noodle and a pack of jelly beans for my lunch the other day.
Ooh,
that's nice.
That's nice.
It's 2 courses. You're fine.
Exactly. But my lunch breaks are they are quite sacred for me because they are when I now get most of my gaming done. And the one that's been filling most of that bar recently has been Disco Elysium. Which recently came out on the Switch. I've been waiting for it to come out on the Switch for a long, long while because I knew that due to present circumstances, that was going to be the best way. I knew I was going to be able to dedicate a significant amount of time that I knew that you needed to play this game in.
Yeah. Pete had a visual reaction to you saying the words Disco Elysium. He kind of like
I didn't watch him. What was it?
Just kind of like up in his
sitting on a hot bowl of custard.
Yeah, very very much.
Yeah. Hot, a little bit surprising, and very very sweet. I I have been playing Disco Elysium for the last year. Getting about an hour in maybe every month. So this is a computer role-playing game, specifically a CRPG, part of that like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and actually I guess probably most appropriately Planescape Torment, because this is an RPG that is if it had been made 20 years ago, it would have been isometric, and it's very kind of based on tabletop role-playing game rules. In fact, I believe the creator actually created these using a knockoff version of one of Dungeons and Dragons from his home country, to create this world, the very strange world of Disco Elysium, and I'm basically saving it for Christmas now. I basically have said, okay, I'm going to pause on this, and I'm just going to go through it in one go, because I haven't felt... It's an incredibly well-written, incredibly good game that I do not want to play.
Okay, why not?
I'm never in the mood. Whenever I think to myself, got an hour here, got a couple of hours here, what shall I do? I never think to myself, you know what fantasy I would like to play? I would like to enjoy the fantasy of being an alcoholic amnesiac cop. Like, I never think that. I never think to myself, do you know what world I'd like to go into? A land of absolute abject poverty and violence. Like, I just never think those things. And it's not because I don't think they're worth exploring. I really want to do it. I really want to go and play that game and be in that world for a bit and really enjoy it and really love it, because it is really, really good. Like, don't get me wrong, it is really, really good. But for me personally, I always find it difficult, really challenging to watch movies about that kind of stuff, engage with content in that kind of way, just because I'm just like, I just want to play Skate 2 again. Like, that's basically just where I'm often at.
That's your answer for everything, though, Pete.
Yeah, and I think you're doing the game a little bit of a disservice there, in a way, because even though it is set in this very sort of downtrodden location, and you are playing this alcoholic cop who on the surface may not actually be the most likable character, I think for me, why I'm picking it up every single lunch break is that I'm just fascinated by what that character now is to me, and how I've basically created this character, and the amount of directions you can basically create a person. I mean, I just think it's just a staggering piece of work that everyone needs to play at some point, because I think that I was just bowled over by how creative and how much personality is in it. Like, having played role-playing games before, where you might get one or two options of being, do you take the good route or the bad route through this problem? Like, here it seems to be filled with thousands and thousands of different possibilities for how you can essentially play as this cop. It seems like every single facet of his character has been laid out and put in front of you to kind of play with, and how it implements and guides you to start with to playing, I also think is ingenious. Like, I remember texting you like a few days ago, Pete, going like, should I read a guide of how all this works,
right,
or shall I just like trust the game that I will learn how this all works? And you rightly said just trust it. And I'm so glad I'd never really looked at like a top 10 things I wish we knew about Disco Elysium before playing.
It'll ruin it.
Because just trusting in that has been just like the most profitable experience, as I've learnt like what these whole like suite of like personalities and how they all like benefit you and affect you negatively. Like, the first thing you try and do is try to interact with this dead body, and I've got the character I built had very low endurance, so he's at the moment he can't investigate the body, because every time he does, he has to roll this basically like what is like an endurance test of whether he can keep the vomit in or not. And at the moment, I failed about 3 or 4 times, and then there's this group of these 2 little kids who keep laughing at me because I can't pass this check. So I'm having to find ways to increase my endurance so I can just do my job and investigate this body, whilst also being like humiliated at the same time. And just that process has introduced me into, right, okay, so this is how I upgrade things. These are the things that I can do to gain experience. All right, so if I put points into here, just like an RPG, it means that I'm increasing my chances I'm going to pass certain skills checks. And I just find just all that kind of stuff is absolutely fascinating. And I just think that you really you are doing the game a bit disservice by just saying like interacting. I can understand why the world is not necessarily pleasant to be within, but just how the playground that this world is just fascinating. I love it.
It's absolutely incredible, and it's a world I really want to be a part of. It's just a case of like trying to get into the right headspace to enjoy it, because it's not something you can just kind of, I'll just casually play a bit of Disco Elysium. For me, it's not that. Also, like let's talk about. We'll only talk about one of the characters because I think they're an absolute joy to discover, and I think most people who were super into it have kind of probably heard about this character now. Kuno is quite possibly my favourite written character in all of video games. I hate him. Like I didn't think I could hate a child this much, and yet the writing is so good. It's so good and shocking. Like there are bits where it's very, very rare, but sometimes you'll play a video game that will make you feel like they're dangerous in the way that when you were young you would listen to like music and think it was dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Like, and Disco Elysium has moments of danger. In the language there is an ultra aggressiveness, but it doesn't come from a trying to be edgy kind of perspective. It comes from some legitimately horrid, brilliant, evocative writing that is really like when you experience it for the first time. And there's literally a moment, I think it's close to the moment that you're talking about, Sam, with the body. There's bits of that made me feel incredibly uncomfortable in a really satisfying kind of a way of a like, oh, this is quite special.
Yeah, there is also within the first few hours, like you encounter people who are physically like hostile, and also people who are outwardly racist and xenophobic, and it really catches you a little bit off guard because you don't know really how you're going to interact with them, and and again, it's part of that tutorializing, because it's not like you're not given an option where it's just like, well, what you said is bad and we're going to take you in and like arrest him. It's the response you give makes you really think about what kind of character you're going to be playing as going forward. Yeah. Like there's not an option there which is like, this is bad or this is good. In fact, I don't think there's even the option when you encounter this racist that says like, yes, I agree with you, thumbs up. I think there's one which is like basically like ignore it, or there's one which is like get really hostile and aggressive, or there's other like, but there's so much nuance to it that even ignoring it feels like it has some sort of ramifications. Yeah. Like that is going to affect the relationship that you have with your partner, but also the relationship that you have with this central character. I guess the best way to put it is, whenever I've played a game like Mass Effect or The Witcher, like I always skew the nice guy because I like to believe I am a nice guy, and the options for being the bad guy are so against my own nature, but also seem very, very like aggressive and
Unnecessarily so.
unnecessarily so and difficult to pass, that I always end up going down one direction, or over the arc of my experience with these characters, like with Commander Shepard, I will always tend towards Paragon, right?
Because the choices you choose in the language are, this is what the good person would say. Whereas Disco Elysium is not interested in saying, this is what a good person would say.
Yeah, so you've really got to question. You can't rely on your own moral compass in those situations, because not only are they situations that you've probably never found yourself in, but the nuance and the writing within it is so well detailed and deep that you have to think about, you have to strip yourself away from it and go, right, I don't know how to answer this question, but how would the character answer this question? I was in hospital the other day.
Oh yeah? Who was putting what where?
Unlike, this is a bit north of the border than my previous experiences, which is good. But met some lovely people and had a really great day out.
Yep.
I left with less than I came in with, which was actually, the aim of the procedure. So
good. Excellent stuff.
And whilst I was waiting, they'll bring you around the drinks trolley. And this guy got served before me.
Martini, sir?
The NHS has gone up tons since Brexit.
You see, this is it. This is liberal socialism in action.
Since we left the EU, now we can serve alcohol.
Yeah, that's what we spent that 200 million on, isn't it?
So the guy before me was like, yeah, I'd love a cup of tea. And he'd been in hospital longer than I had, like a couple of weeks, I think. So he's like, oh, can I have a couple of biscuits as well? I was like, oh, yeah, right, okay. So the lady comes to me and says, oh, what would you like? I said, could I just have some more water, please? And I'd love a couple of digestives. And then she went, all right, okay. And I was like, oh no, what have I done?
Oh no.
What have I asked for?
Oh my goodness.
And she said, and to be honest, this is something that I think I should employ throughout my whole life. She said, you can have some biscuits, but only if you have a banana as well. And I was like, okay. So fair play to them.
The power that person had over you. That's fantastic.
Exactly. And I felt like, because I was in the hospital, I had to eat the fruit.
Yeah.
I felt judged. Like I had to be seen to be doing the right thing.
Have you ever thought about like additional uses for bananas? So bear with me.
You're not talking about mellow yellow,
Probably
no.
not. What I'm talking about is mashing up bananas, right?
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Sure.
I've always felt that there's an untapped potential in the mashed banana, right?
What do you mean?
Well, it feels like it would make a good sort of mortar to the bricks of other foods.
Well,
I just think that, like, when you get things like Philadelphia cheese spread, right? And you think to yourself, I could put that on anything, right? I could put Philadelphia cheese on basically, right? So like, vegetables, I could slip it over the top, right? I could dunk a carrot in it and eat it like that. I could put it on toast. I could do all these different things. The point is that Philadelphia can be used in many, many ways. That's the savoury version.
Okay, yeah, we get it.
You get it.
Yeah,
you follow me.
Yeah. So basically what you're wanting is you want someone to produce a pot of mashed up banana that you can spread on stuff.
I want a sweet Philadelphia. That's what I want.
You want, I can't believe it's not banana. No. Utterly banana-y. Utterly banana.
Nearly. There's something there.
Nearly.
Workshop it. Bring it back.
So there we go. That was Staying In with myself, Sam Turner. there was Peter Willington, and there was also Daniel Frost. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to listen to the games and the experiences and the things that we are bringing to you. We genuinely don't bring anything on this show unless we think that you will like it too. That's what this show is all about, is just sharing lovely things with you, the lovely listener. It sounds disingenuous, but really it's what this show is all about, and it brings me a massive smile on my face. Just sharing that with you. It's no secret, it's no lie. We just want you to have a good time with the people that you love and that you like around you, and maybe just some good time spent on your own as well. The things that we talked about on this podcast were many and varied. There was Dungeons and Dragons, Dungeon Scrawlers, Heroes of Undermountain, an excellent introductory into the world of Dungeons and Dragons. I reckon great for some kids that you may have in the family, or maybe a good present for Christmas just around the corner. Also, the Call of Cthulhu starter set, and also we spoke about the astounding Disco Elysium as well. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do it at any point. We are on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we are on Instagram. Just search for @stayinginpod. We also have an email address, stayinginpod@gmail.com, if you'd like to just send us a message. Maybe you've got a recommendation for us once in a while, huh? We'd love to see what it is that you're enjoying and what you're loving, and for you to share that with us would be a really super treat. If you are, incidentally, actually looking for a recommendation for something for Christmas, either a gift that you can get for someone who you particularly like, or maybe you're looking to get something as a treat over Christmas, you got a bit of a break, got a bit of time on your hands, would like to introduce the family into a new game, or maybe just to play something on your own, then we have curated pages on Board Game Geek and also on Steam. So there's a host of board games and video games out there that we love, that we will recommend that you play too, and also links to the podcast that they're mentioned on, so you can have a little bit of background to see if it's something that you will enjoy. But for now, that's it from us. Take care. Goodbye. Ta-ra.